one day will step in. Corruption will be out of the system. At the end of the day, the best man going to win. Once you're involved in politics, you will use your pen to give high man licks. So recuse yourself, conflict up in trees. But even though the system don't change,
hold on to your dreams.
I'll keep coming back and don't find it strange.
Hold on to your dreams.
The scene is true, yes we understand.
Hold on to your dreams.
Culture remains bigger than every man.
Hold on to your dreams.
So despite the way how I man does feel, when my dreams some does try to kill, though at times my pen lacks the wheel.
Hold on to your dreams.
This unfair distribution, of wealth in the system, between the rich at the top and the poor man at the bottom. Everything that good, real good, is for those on top. Oh yeah, but all misfortune and sacrifice is for the bottom. The sufferers at the base, always struggling to survive. With less and less, only God knows best why we even still alive. Rising fuel prices
is the poor man.
All kind of taxes,
The poor man.
the merchant don't feel it, no. He just pass it on to who can least afford it. Whoa, whoa. Increase custom duties
Is the poor man.
cost of goods and services.
The poor man.
The businessman don't feel it, no. He just pass it on to who just cannot afford it. Oh, oh, yeah.
It's the poor people at the bottom paying for it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Mama, boy.
Mama boy, boy.
Mama, boy.
Mama boy, boy.
Woman suffering.
We suffering.
Mama, boy, boy.
Mama boy, boy.
Mama, boy,
Mama
boy.
boy, boy.
Mama, boy.
Whoa.
Lord, Lord, not know. Whoa, whoa. La da 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 da. Oh, oh. La da da. The youth from the ghetto, can't afford to go. No, no.
To a chronic or Montano, reggae or calypso show.
But those with the money, get the money, getting complimentary. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
All the promoters,
Them too.
helping to keep it so.
The money man get the best seat, while the poor man outside the gate. And the poor fans who care, they can't even go near the star they help to create. Rising ticket prices,
Is the poor man.
all government levies.
The poor man.
The merchant don't feel it, no. He just pass it on to who can least afford it. Government expenses,
Is the poor man.
rising spare part prices.
The poor man.
The businessman don't feel no, he just pass it down to who?
Just cannot afford it.
Oh,
Is the poor man
at the bottom, pay for it. Boy, boy, mama, boy,
Mama woy woy,
mama, boy,
Mama woy woy,
woman suffering.
we suffering.
Sing, mama, boy, boy,
Mama woy woy,
mama, boy, boy,
Mama woy woy,
mama, boy.
woy.
Sing it out loud. Whoa, 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 boy. Don't fret to cry, don't fret to cry. Whoa, 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 boy. When come to work security, is more stress and worry. Plenty worry. Cause your job, as you know, here today but not sure tomorrow. And when things get crucial, real crucial, and it's time to cut back, yeah, it's always the laborer man, not management, getting the axe. The rich man always get richer, cause society does give him more than the poor man with 3 children or 4 in a shanty, sleeping on the floor. All cut back on wages,
Is the poor man,
high management salaries.
the poor man,
The much I don't feel it, no. He just pass it down to who can least afford it. Whoa, whoa. The healthcare costs keep rising.
is the poor man,
More poor people dying.
the poor man,
The businessman don't feel it, no. He just pass it down to who just cannot afford it. Yeah. It's the poor people at the bottom paying for it. Oy. Mama, boy,
Mama woy woy,
mama, boy,
Mama woy woy,
woman suffering.
we suffering.
Mama, boy, boy,
Mama woy woy,
mama, boy,
Mama woy woy,
mama, boy.
And a good evening to Grenada, Carriacou, and Pidimatic. Once again, it is time for Talking Points. My name is Sheldon Scott, here with you up until the 10 o'clock hour. It's now 8 minutes after the hour of... Well, no, it's 4 minutes, yeah? No, let me make sure. Yeah, you see, when I think going out at time here. It's 4 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock on the Spice Isle of Grenada.
The more they labor, is the poor. They getting poorer. Tell me, who cleaning the city? Who to keep the people healthy? Hey. Man, they take and they take, but never get piece of the cake. The poor man put government in power, but the rich man get all the favor. So I'm here tonight to play my
Remember earlier, let me just tell you all, like and share the live. Let me say a special good night to my friends out there in River Sally.
Is the poor man,
Yeah, I reached down in time.
poor man,
the much I do,
Martin, good night, bro.
he just pass it down to who?
Good night to the entire River Sally community.
Tell me who you see in prison.
All of you listening via 91.9, 91.5, a special good night to you.
the poor man,
The bit
Theo, good night to you, bro.
he
Nell, good night to you.
to who just cannot afford it. Whoa, whoa. Is
Let me take it from the top before I go because I will get in trouble because last night I didn't call their names. Zayla and Zoe. Zayla, good night to you. Good night to you, Zoe and Xavier. Good night to you as well. Hope you all are having a wonderful night today and had a wonderful day today. Joyce Phillip, good night to you and all the listeners via YouTube and Facebook. Hey, Alan Jones, I see you. And Kathleen Wilfred, Anne Marie, Cynthia, Carl, Kathleen, Veronica, Agnes, Anne, Adrian, Vanessa, Jean, good night to you. Gavin, Alban, Baby Daddy, Michelle Alexander, Hilary Joseph, Marilyn Panchu, Faithlyn Clive, Deborah, Christine, the other Deborah, all right, Mayana, Sherma, good night to you. Errol, Jesse Sherry, Dave, Felix, good night to you. Anastasia, good night. Denise Fitzroy, Sarah Lynn, good night. Janice, good night. Dominique, I see you there, bro. Phyllis, Marilyn, no, I mentioned that's the other Marilyn, right? Jenna, good night to you. And Barbara, good night. Hermina, Eflin, Cindy, Beavis, Good Life, Gloria, Janice, Amanda, Lyndon Panchu, good night. Stephanie, the other Amanda, good night to you. And Yoland, good night. Desiree, good night. Martha, Eliza, Stephen, Roland, Harrow, Alcy, Iva, Gosville, good night to all of you tuning in via YouTube.
Sweet no longer have much. Despite the rocks they're throwing your way. Hold on to your dreams. And some of the things bad mind people say. Hold on to your dreams.
Let me see who is tuning in via the Facebook. And folks, yeah, let's get the likes up. Get the likes and the shares up on both YouTube and Facebook. Let's get the likes up. Let me see. Manda, Patrick, Crystal, Charmaine, Denise, Anna, Jocelyn, Dillion, Tegua, good night. I've seen you for a couple of nights, I think, Tegua. Shawnell, good night. Ruth, Denise, Charmaine Ragbasing, good night to you. Agatha Debelo, good night to you. Celine Tobias, good night to you. And Shauna, Winnie, Veronica, Landon, good night to you. Cindy, the other Cindy, good night to you. Donna Francis, Laslin Douglas, Ta, good night to you. Walland, good night. And let me see, I'm seeing Davis, I'm seeing Cindy, Tevin, Donna, I'm seeing Claude, I'm seeing Lydia, good night. Yeah, I'm seeing all of you there. Christopher, good night to you. Earl, good night to you. Wendy and Nurse Maguire, good night to you. Right, yeah, just saying a special good night. Diana, good night to you. And Linda, hope you all are having a wonderful night tonight.
Still there is a move that you take faithfully to escape terror and bullets daily.
Some folks are saying they're hearing a little low. I'm going to try to fix that from here.
After miles of sacrifice and a barrier that's so high, your quest for freedom.
Yeah, last night while we were doing our program, yeah, all hell was breaking loose next door to us in St. Vincent.
Dehydration,
The last figure I got was 5 people died in St. Vincent last night alone. Multiple shootings taking place all over the main island.
the pressures from Donald Trump. Hold on to your dreams. In federal jail, he will find his bunk.
And again, I keep saying that if we do not nip it in the bud here in Grenada, we can very well find ourselves heading in that direction. So in the interim, we have to nip it in the bud here.
Now, despite the lives that this journey takes,
See, I'm waiting. I haven't seen the Royal Grenada Police Force. Let me check their Facebook page because they stopped sending thing now. So I have to check the Facebook page every now and again to see if they sent out anything. Because remember, there was a farmer that was found dead on his farm last week. I have not seen any release saying what the autopsy on him has proven, if it is a murder or if it is a sudden death or whatever it is. I've not seen anything from the Royal Grenada Police Force saying whether it is, whether it's not, whatever. Yeah? So I'm still waiting for information on that.
I dreamed that
They found a boat with passports on it. I haven't seen any report coming back from the Royal Grenada Police Force on what has taken place with that one. You're hearing of several deaths that have taken place over the past few weeks, and you're not getting a report. Yeah, you're not getting a report from the Royal Grenada Police Force as to what has taken place.
one day
Come on, officers. I know you can do better than that. Come on. I know you're competent. I know you're capable. Your leadership just needs to understand that as well.
For me, despite the length of time, I will never give up. Neutrality one day will step in. Corruption will be out of the system. At the end of the day, the best man going to win. Once you're involved in politics, you will use your pen to give.
Yes, Joyce, I know you're locked in and listening.
Accuse yourself, conflict of interest.
And in a short while, what we're going to do is I will be having a caller online with me. So when that caller is on, please do not call when you hear that caller on. They're going to be on from roughly 8:30. And at that time, I don't want anybody to be calling to throw off the conversation, all right? So at 8:30, I'll be calling Mr. Oliver Joseph. We're going to be speaking a bit about the IMF report for Grenada. 75 pages. I wonder how much I'll read this. 75 pages long, the report in relation to Grenada. So I'm wondering how many of you have actually read that 75 pages of the IMF report, because I'm seeing a lot of people out there saying all kind of things. Yeah, see, Grenada get a good report. That's good news. What? NDC government, that report was done due to the NNP budget. Yeah, the measures put in place by the NNP. So we're going to be discussing that roughly about 8:30. I'll be making contact with Mr. Oliver Joseph, and we'll be discussing that and probably one or two other issues as time permits. So we'll be doing that at 8:30. All right? Nice. Beautiful. So remember, when I have him online, we are not going to be taking calls. So I don't expect to be hearing a beep, beep, beep. Because if you're hearing me having a discussion with Mr. Oliver Joseph, I don't expect you to call at that point in time. Right? Nice. Good night to you, Amisha. Hope you're having a wonderful night tonight.
Quest for a better life, a land that's pure and so right. Land of the free, home of the brave, no longer free and brave. A president in Donald Trump, a country turned upside down. What was un-American, no American. Because of...
So no, it seems as though some people are telling me they're having volume problems. I'm not picking it up in studio. In fact, my volume in studio is slightly too high. So I'm not sure if it's on your end. But my volume in studio is actually slightly higher than it should be. So I'm not sure where that is coming from. But I'm getting that one or two. So message me. Let me know if the audio is okay or if you're having a problem with the audio. So again, yeah, we've had several happenings. Now, there was the incident that took place in Brizan, the shootout between the Royal Grenada Police Force and unnamed individuals around 3 a.m. in the morning. No release. No release in relation to that. Yeah? There has been the farmer that was found dead on his farm. You expect that an autopsy would be done, and then the public would be informed if a murder case is going forward or if it was a case of sudden death. Nothing. Yeah? You have an individual who was found dead in St. Andrew a couple days ago. I don't know if the autopsy has been done yet. No information coming out in relation to that. Royal Grenada Police Force, what really going on with you all? Yeah? People need to know so they know how to operate. There may be people that may, okay, if it's sudden death, we don't need to tell earlier who we see the person going down towards that area with. But if it is a case where it is not sudden death, then I think you all have a responsibility to tell the Grenadian people so. We have a call online. Good night.
Sheldon, good night.
Hi, good night, sir.
Your volume, sometimes it's going up high, and then it coming on low.
Well,
high, and low. I don't know. Every time I put it up, you go down low. Long going up high.
Well, I'm trying to figure out why, actually. So I'm
because
checking.
I saw some messages from some callers saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And as I hear you saying that, let me call you and tell you because I recognize that it's happening too.
Okay.
Take care of yourself. Have a good evening. I'll listen in as usual.
Thank you so very much, my brother.
Well, brother.
All right, great, thanks. Yeah, so I'm wondering what is happening because I'm seeing it. It's actually spiking. Let me see. Maybe I could just touch this. Maybe I don't know. Probably something is up with the system tonight. So over the weekend we'll have to take a look at that. But it's okay. As I tell you all, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screens are looking at, well, 6 really, but 5 screens are looking at right through while I'm doing the program. So I have to check each of them to see if everything is going okay. Nice, yeah.
Oh yeah, but our misfortune and sacrifice is for the
So as I said, at 8:30, I'm going to be making contact with Mr. Oliver Joseph.
sufferers
We're going to be discussing a bit about the IMF report on Grenada.
to survive with less and less.
And again, let me just clarify some. Oh, well, let me take this call and then I'll get into that one because we still have a little bit of time before I go over to Mr. Oliver Joseph. So let me try and take this call. Hello, good night.
Hi, Brother Scott. Good night.
Hi, good night. How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm fine myself. You go right ahead. You're live.
Yes. I just want to find. Did you hear anything concerning that meeting with the wardens?
No, I did not get feedback in relation to that. You know, sometimes they have to be careful when they're talking to me because I know people go say, well, it's them tell me.
Yeah.
So I can't approach them when they're in uniform and them kind of thing. You understand, people? Because there's a lot of victimization and hatred going on out there. And if you see a warden speaking to me and then I come and I speak tonight, they're going to say that's the warden that tell him the information and they're going to try to spite that individual. So I have to be careful. So I was in town, but I didn't get a chance to speak to any of them because obviously in uniform. But I'll get the info. I'll try to find out what happened there because I'm hearing of another meeting that was supposed to take place today as well with the Port Authority workers. Now, there was an assessment that was done some time ago in relation to Port Authority workers. And they have been asking for the results of that and they have not been given those results. So I know that they've been asking now for that meeting so that they can finalize why they're not getting the results and all of that. Because it may affect things like, for instance, pay and grade for some of the workers.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was a meeting that ought to have happened today with the Port Authority workers as well. Yeah, so I don't know if it did take place, but again, you know, I will find out.
Yeah. And next thing I want to say to her, I want to congratulate the road workers. The place looking nice, trust me.
Yeah, man.
Looking good.
The
So
road
I guess
workers
as
working.
much
They working.
The government took the advice and open the bushing program.
Well, listen. You cannot have people in the situation that they are in and not provide avenues for them to be able to make a little money and so on. If you do that, if you keep pressuring them, you're forcing them into a position they don't really want to be. And the actions they may take when they're in that position are not actions that you would really want.
Exactly. So I say, let me shout out all them road workers. All they doing a good job so far. The place looking good. Trust me.
All right, my brother. Thank you so very much for your call. All right, thanks.
Yeah, man.
All right, folks. Yeah, I know you would have heard some aspects of that call pretty low because they call on WhatsApp, and for some reason, maybe they're using a Bluetooth or whatever, so they were sounding kind of far. I know. All right. 440-7377. We got roughly 10 minutes before I make that call. Yeah, roughly about 10 minutes, before I make that call.
Woman suffering. Sing, Mama, woe,
Good night to you, Matthew Boyne,
woe,
Oswald Belfon,
woe.
Jackie. I think they just call it Jackie, you know. For me, you are Jackie. Raymond, good night to you. We've got a call online. Good night. Hello.
Good night, Senator Scott.
Hi, good night, sir.
Yeah, good night. Sometimes it's about 3 days now. You go when somebody calls us, I know who based in Grenada, but when they talk, you could barely hear them. I don't know. So you're gonna have to check that out.
Well, I don't know.
You know?
Some folks are saying volume issue. Some are saying no. So over the weekend, I'll have to go over the system.
You have to check the other thing. I don't know if you have a needle there and you could see what if it's 5 or 10 IP dropping, because that never used to happen before.
Yeah, because I'm hearing you loud and clear. It's registering
Yeah.
on the system loud and clear when you're speaking.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm checking as well. I'm checking this with
So I'm not sure
Right.
what's taking place there. I'll double check
I'm
it.
loud and clear. I'm
Okay.
loud and clear, but your locals know the wave is going down. Because I try to listen to myself for 2 seconds with you there, and I'm loud and clear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you go check that out.
Okay, my brother. Thank you so very
Okay,
much.
have a good one.
Yeah.
Okay then, all right.
And before I go to that call, I'm just realizing I'm seeing a message here. I'm seeing a post by Miss Rosemary Rajwant. And Rosemary Rajwant, as some of you may know, she was a candidate. I'm trying to remember on behalf of what party, but she was a candidate in St. George Southeast in the 2018 general election. I know that she had a hard time that election because just before the election, she had an incident and she broke her leg and so on. And I'm seeing a post by her that's saying, "Today I learned that I'm no longer allowed to be in the ministerial complex. Could our PM, Deacon Mitchell, or any other NDC member provide a list of other places I shouldn't be, since my presence seemingly affects their ability to govern?" And she goes on. There's a second post from her that says, "Say whatever you want about the NNP, but I was never assaulted by a male police officer, or any officer for that matter, in the ministerial complex while discussing the government shortcomings with the staff there, while the NNP governed. I demand that the current government step down immediately. This level of abuse of perceived power is ridiculous, unacceptable, and I certainly won't allow it to continue." Now, I know earlier today, I got a message from someone. And for some reason, if you send me a message, send me a message. Don't send me what somebody say and don't tell me who said it. Right? Let me just make that clear. So they sent the message and they didn't tell me who said it. But a good friend of mine, they sent that to me. Yeah, they sent that to me. So I want to know something though. Is there any truth to that? Is it a case where she was denied entry into the ministerial complex? Is it a case where she was told that she can't enter? And if so, what is the reasoning behind her? Because as far as I know, she's a Grenadian citizen. What is the reasoning behind her not being allowed to enter? No, I mean, I could show all you, I could show all you what she said. Yeah. What is the reasoning behind her not being allowed to enter into the ministerial complex, if that is so? Because I'm saying this based only on the information that we've gotten from her. It may very well be that there may be another story or another aspect to this. So I'm really interested in finding out what has really taken place with that story, because next thing I go and I try to enter the complex and I've been told that I can't enter as well. Yeah, next yeah, next thing Scotty go and they tell Scotty, "Hey boy, where think you're going? You can't come inside." Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, because this sort of thing is not supposed to happen, is it? Yeah. Every Grenadian should be allowed to enter the ministerial complex. Every Grenadian should have the right to be able to enter the ministerial complex to conduct whatever business they have to enter. Once a person is not a security issue, once they are following the guidelines for entry into the ministerial complex, and there is no security issue surrounding that individual, they ought to be allowed to enter. So, my questions are simply, is there a security issue surrounding Miss Rosemary Rajwant? Is there some sort of security issue? Is she on some sort of watch list or whatever? Or has she breached any of the rules in relation to entry, the way she was dressed or anything like that, or items she was trying to carry into the ministerial complex? What was it that caused her to end up in the situation that she is now, where she is no longer able to enter into the ministerial complex? So just my 2 bit on that, because I've seen it, so I'm just asking the questions. Now that I've seen that information out there by her, that she is not being allowed to enter the ministerial complex. And so I know the individual is she is a difficult individual to deal with. But what I'm saying is that there must be a reasoning behind that. I don't think that the security officers at the ministerial complex, and I don't think that the staff there would do that without some proper reasoning. So I'm waiting to hear if there was any proper reasoning as to why she was not allowed to enter into the ministerial complex. We all should be allowed to enter, but I'm not sure what is the reasoning there.
The youth from the ghetto, can't afford to.
Now, let's say if you're entering the ministerial complex, police officers are allowed to search you. Remember, there are literally hundreds of people working inside there, and you also have the leadership of the country in that facility. So they would have the responsibility to ensure that any person entering does not pose a threat to the leadership of the country and the workers who are working within the facility, and even everything else in the facility, because you have births and deaths, you have all these records, etc. there. You have to ensure that whoever is entering does not pose a threat. So it was a simple question, just asking if maybe she was posing a threat or whatever. What is the situation? Yes, so maybe somebody needs to come out, and not just her. We've heard what she had to say. Let's hear what whoever is in charge of security there has to say in relation to that issue now.
It's the poor man.
All government levies,
The poor man.
the much I don't feel it, no.
So I'm going to try now to get in contact with Mr. Oliver Joseph, and we're going to be discussing the IMF report on Grenada. So give me a minute or two. Let me just get in contact with him.
It's the poor man.
Rising spare part prices,
The poor man.
the businessman don't feel it, no. He just pass it on to who?
Just cannot afford it.
Oh, he's the poor man at the bottom, paying for it. Boy, boy, mama, boy,
Mama, boy, boy.
mama, boy,
Mama, boy, boy.
woman suffering.
We suffer.
Sing, mama, boy, boy,
Mama, boy, boy.
mama, boy, boy, mama, boy. Sing it out loud. Whoa, 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 boy. Don't fret to cry, don't fret to cry. Whoa, 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 boy. When come to work security, is more stress and worry. Plenty worry, cause your job, as you know, here today but not sure tomorrow. And when things get crucial, real crucial, and it's time to cut back, yeah, it's always the laborer man, not management, getting the axe. The rich man always gets richer, cause society does give him more. And the poor man with 3 children or 4 in a shanty, sleeping on the floor, all cut back on wages.
All right, folks. So I promised you I would have Mr. Oliver Joseph on, and I do have him on with me tonight. Good night to you, Mr. Oliver Joseph.
Hey, good night, Sheldon. It's good to hear you, and good. Thank you very much for inviting me to join you on the program tonight.
Wonderful. And I saw the IMF report finally coming out yesterday, and I'm very interested in your perception of what has been put on. 75 pages long?
Yes, 75 pages.
Quite an extensive report on the fiscal situation here in Grenada and projections into 2024 and so on, and looking at the year 2022. Your views in relation to the report?
Well, the IMF, what they do, they conduct an assessment of the country's fiscal policy and financial situation. When the assessment is done, they will make some policy recommendation. And it is up to the government to decide whether it will accept the policy recommendation or not. Now, the IMF could only make recommendation, but it is up to the government to determine whether they will implement these recommendations. So, the IMF report, and I want to deal with it slowly so that your listeners, the thousands of listeners, will be very clear. First of all, I will start out by quoting from the report. So here we're not speculating. I'm quoting from the report, and I'll explain what it means, because a lot of people might be reading the report, but what it means in reality is a different thing. So I'll take the first statement that the government is taking credit for. It says growth is estimated to have reached 6.4% in 2022. You heard it here, Sheldon?
Yes, indeed, 2022.
Driven by a tourism rebound and private and public construction projects. So in 2022, I don't understand our government coming into office in June, on June 23rd, 2022, could take credit for the growth in the economy. So that is the first point I wish to make. And what I read to you there is from the report, right?
Yep.
And everything else I'm quoting is from the report.
So let me ask this. So the report that has just been done by the IMF is based on the year 2022, not 2022 and 2023. It's based on 2022.
Well, we're still in 2023, so you can't do a report for 2023.
Right. So, the budget that was in place for 2022 was done by the NNP or the NDC?
Well, of course, everybody knows it's NNP that did the 2022 budget.
So, the fiscal measures, everything is by the NNP?
By yes.
Okay.
But that's quite obvious. That's why I'm saying let's stick to the report.
Okay,
so
great.
They cannot debunk it.
Great.
It says growth is projected at 3.9% in 2023. That's the projection for 2023, you know. But this year, 3.9% as opposed to the growth we had at 6.4% in 2022. See the difference?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is what, so the first point is the 6.4% in 2022, but the IMF is stating must be credited to the new National Party. Now, let us look at the factors. It says, and I'm quoting again from the report, the authorities' policy response facilitated by the build-up of fiscal buffers over the past decade. Who take a decade in 10 years?
Yeah, 10 years. So, I mean,
but here what the report says.
not 6 months, 10 years.
Let me read it again. The authorities are quoting from the report, you know, Sheldon. And you have to have patience with me tonight because I'll be repeating some things.
No, you go right ahead, sir. You go right ahead.
Authorities' policy response facilitated by the build-up of fiscal buffers over the past decade dampened the pass-through from rising global food and fuel prices. So what did he say? Because of the fiscal buffers, and I will explain what fiscal buffers mean, because for people listening, they may not be familiar with that term. So, but the fiscal buffers and dampen the pass-through from rising global food and fuel prices. And let me explain what fiscal buffers mean. So the government tax, they have their tax policy, and you have a surplus that you can use to implement your programs. Or you have what is called in economics fiscal space, created by saving budgetary resources and reducing public debt in good times. Fiscal buffers. So it's really the ability of government to service its obligation. And this was achieved during the new National Party period by implementing the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Again, in another way to put it, fiscal buffers have allowed the authorities to respond swiftly to the COVID and commodity price shocks. Public debt, listen to that one carefully, eh? Public debt, and I'm still quoting, that's not my words, you know. Public debt fell from nearly 100% of GDP in 2014 to below 60% in 2019.
Well, I know they can't be speaking about the NDC during that period.
Well, exactly. Well, exactly. That's why I say I'm quoting the report that they will try to rebut and say that is not correct. But what I'm reading there, that's a report, Sheldon. I'm quoting from the report. Public debt fell from nearly 100% of GDP in 2014 to below 60% in 2019. This provided the fiscal space needed to cushion the impact of the pandemic and respond to higher food and fuel prices.
So in layman's language to the common man, the vendor out on the street, the bus driver driving, the fisherman on the bay, the farmer in his garden, explain what you have just meant with the GDP dropping from 100% to below 60% between 2014 to 2019, and due to that happening, it creating a buffer so that when the issue of the COVID came up, we had a buffer.
Right. So it is not the GDP that dropped.
Sorry, no,
the public debt.
The public debt, sorry,
debt.
yeah.
No, when you reduce public debt, then you have some savings. Mm-hmm. Okay, layman language. If you have a loan in the bank and you reduce the loan, you used to pay $2,000 a month, and you reduce it to $1,000. But you have space now.
Mm-hmm. You have more money in your hand.
Well, of course, that is what the simple mean, Mm-hmm. That the government have more money, all this economic, so when you break it down, it could be related to the household, So it is saying that because the government was able to bring down the debt to GDP ratio under 60%, you have savings. And that is what they call buffers. And because of this buffer, because of this savings, that is why the government could use the money now to deal with the current situation. So they are saying that the new National Party government achieved this buffer by prudent fiscal management and by implementing the Fiscal Responsibility Act. That is why we're in this good position today. That is why when the government comes, the Minister of Finance could say, meet a treasury full of money. Well, I hear some people are say pregnant with money. Because of prudent fiscal management. So there is no credit they could take for that. Because the report is saying that because of the fiscal buffers, you're able to deal with the current situation as it is because of the fiscal space. All fiscal space means the ability of government to service its obligation. Mm-hmm. And so this report points to prudent fiscal management by the NNP. I go back to the point they made. They say over the last decade,
Yeah.
Yes,
And we know who was in power over the last decade.
of course. Of course. We know that. So I am happy that to see that the IMF with this report put it in a situation where they are saying the country needs, but if you look at the recommendation, they say buffers need to be restored. This is the recommendation, Sheldon.
So it means that the buffers have now been removed. If they're saying they need to be restored, it means they've been removed.
Well, in some cases, but the recommendation is buffers need to be restored to insulate against potential future shocks. That's the recommendation, Restore the fiscal buffers. In other words, you must manage the country as the NNP did. That is what they're telling the current government, Manage the country because you have rising global food prices and fuel prices. And therefore, you need to have these fiscal buffers. You need to reduce public debt so that you can get these buffers. So the report is very comprehensive and detailed, but they are saying when they look at 2022, the strong financial situation that we left there, 6.4% growth, and the projection this is of 3.9. And I read our next report that says 3.4. But all of them pointing to at least less than 4%, where we had a growth in 2022 of 6.4. You see, when you explain these factors, there's nothing you can say about taking credit, right? Let us see what the report will be after you have your 2023 budget to implement, and then we will see the report. But as it stands now, based on the report that comes out, and there are lots of other recommendations that the fund, because what they will do, they will make recommendations to the government, as I said, to how to deal with the issues in the financial sector, the social sectors. So, in other words, they want to see the aim of the government is to improve the standard of living of its citizens, and you do that by fiscal policy measures, and that's what the government is judged. They have the right to introduce whatever policy they want because they live in the government. So when you look at the policies that they have implemented, it is clearly against the working class of this country. There is no doubt about that. All the programs, all the measures is against the working class. But that is their policy. The people will judge them. People are not foolish as they think. They know how they are affected by the policies that you implement, and therefore they are calling on the authorities to look at public sector reform, pension reform, NS reform. So we'll see how the government proceed on these matters. So when you make a promise that you make everybody permanent in the public service, they are worried about that because you will increase the wage bill. And if you increase the wage bill and you cannot increase the revenue, then you will be in difficulty. It's as simple as that. If you spending more than you're earning, you will be in difficulty. Just like the household or the individual, you cannot be spending more than you are earning. That is a recipe for disaster.
Let
And
me
therefore-
let me ask you as well, because you've mentioned one of the recommendations is pension reform.
Yes.
If things remain as they are right now, when it comes to pensions, and we're speaking here specifically to public workers,
Yes.
if it remains as it is right now with the 1958 Act taking precedent, what would it mean to the consolidated fund and to government's finances going
Well,
into the future, immediately, medium term, and into the future?
Well, what do you see happening? You add 525 pensioners to the pension bill, to wages and pension. What you will find happening is a situation where the pension bill could be more than the wage bill. That is what you're going to find happening.
So you mean you could actually end up paying more out
Okay.
in pensions on a monthly basis than you're paying in actual salaries?
Right? Because you add 525 new pension, new,
Mm-hmm.
and you have potentially 2,000 people in the public service that could retire. And let me describe the public service, because sometimes people mix up the words. So you have what we call civil servants, like people in the ministry,
Mm-hmm.
the police force, the prison, nurses, all employees that are paid by the state, That is what I'm talking about. That the state have to pay as public servants. Right? So, if you have, right now, 2,000 of the 6,000 something public servants qualified to go. So, if they decide, well, the government is going to increase the retirement age to 65, let me go. If the decision, if they consider it, now is the best time to exit because I've qualified, I make it 26 or 2/3. And in case of the police, they make 20 years. That would put the government in a very tight financial position, which they have not calculated for, because you don't know how many people retire this year. So, when the analysis was done by the IMF, what they did, they said, based on the people that are qualified to go, just in case they decide to go this year, that will be the cost. So when they're talking about the figures that we quoting is not the correct, you have to look at the models that were used, just in case everybody that qualified decide to go. That will be the cost, and that is how we came up with the figures, based on the IMF analysis. So, you could have a situation, I said, with the return of the pension of the government. And the government have set up a committee, to look at, to review the pension, Yes, they set up a committee was set up.
So this is a situation, if it is not addressed, because the government is in a position now that they definitely, because as it is right now, the pension is also non-contributory.
Yeah,
So in other words, government has to find that money, but no, it's unlike the NIS where it's a contributory. This one is not being contributed to by the worker during their period while they're working. Government has
Right.
to find the money and just pay.
Yes, you're correct. That's what and that is the danger the IMF warning about. Because you make no contribution and you have to get two pensions, one from the government, which is non-contributory, and one from NS they contributed to. Some people suggesting that for the new workers joining the public service, that they should be entitled to one pension and not two. But we will see what the report from the committee that was established, what will be their recommendation, because it is a difficult situation for any government to pay the non-contributory pension and pay, remember, non-contributory, but the government is contributing to it. The government is contributing to NS, and the employee is contributing. And at the end of the day, at age 60, they get in the NS and they get in the non-contributory one. So it is a matter that must be addressed as we go forward. But you are not hearing that.
But again, it also must be addressed with the input of the unions representing the workers. It can't just be government making a decision and saying this is how we're going. The workers themselves who are working within the government service that are represented by a union has to be consulted in relation to the final formula of pensions as we go forward.
You're correct, but my understanding is that the committee established, and my understanding is that they invited the Trade Union Council to send a representative to be part of the committee. I'm not sure if that happened, but the unions must be part of this discussion because it's going to affect the future workers. You would not change it to change the current situation, but going forward in the future, you will need to address that matter. And that is why when there was the call that the NMP should pay as soon as the court ruled it, the NMP set up a committee to advise the government on the best way going forward. How would you address? Would you pay the retroactive amount first? Would you pay the people who retired earlier? And how would you address that matter going forward? A committee of experts was set up. What you find happening? No, the government promised, this present government promised, we will pay the pension, and they come and just pay it. Now, they realize the difficulty of that.
Mm-hmm.
Just pay 76 million. Pay everybody 76 million. You have not seen the multiplier effect from that. What you have seen a growth in liquidity. The banks and so on, because you don't understand the demographics. You're giving people retire how much years now? You're not going and invest in no business now. They retire. So they put the money in the bank. Some might do repairs to the house. Limited amount.
Mm-hmm.
Some might send the children to university. And now, that is the continuous payment that you need to make every month. And so I look forward to the report of the committee that has been established to advise the government on how you treat with pension, because it is a matter that can determine the development of the country, how we move forward. Where would the resources come from to pay this heavy pension bill? We are not against the payment, we made it clear that we're going to pay. But it's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
What model you use to ensure fiscal sustainability. So that is the real issue facing the government. And they have to address this matter. And so, while they're growing in the report made it very clear that in 2022, there was a 6.4% growth, and in 2023, the expected growth is 3.9%. Never lose sight of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the NMP had very prudent fiscal management policies in place that ensures that fiscal stability, and the IMF is now saying that we had the right policies in place for our country.
Now, let me ask this one at this point. You've spoken about the growth of 6 point something and the projected growth of 3.4, 3.9 for 2020.
No, 6.4. The growth is 6.4
for 2022.
And 3.9
is the projection.
Yeah, projection for 2023.
Now, we've heard the government speaking of growth in the economy between January and now. But yet still, we have situations where instead of jobs being created, people are losing jobs. And I often hear you use the terminology jobless growth. Give us a little bit on that one.
Right. Okay. And thanks for that question because I missed that. No, you see, when you're looking at growth and you're looking at the GDP, right? It's a very simple formula. For example, debt with GDP ratio is just a numerator over a denominator. So you're looking at the debt of the country and you divide it by the GDP. That's how you get the ratio. It's not no magic. That is mathematically. But when you're looking at it realistically, what is taking place in the country? You have growth, but there is no job. Unemployment is on the increase. And the government continue to send home workers. They have not taken policy to lift people out of poverty. And that should be the objective. So to talk both about growth and people are suffering, that makes absolutely no sense. You're looking at the economy, but also about the society. And that is what our parties keep stressing on. We need a just society. We need equity in society. So focus on the society and how you help people to come out of poverty. Because, that is the thing you have to focus on when you're looking at the growth figures and unemployment increasing, because that's happening very easy. Because I explained to you, the debt to GDP ratio is a simple formula.
Mm-hmm.
You just put the debt over the GDP and you get a ratio, and that's it. But the people, our concern was about people. That is why we had all these programs creating jobs for people, I remember sitting in the cabinet and we said, unemployment is too high. We have to do something about that. And what we did, we said, in the housing project, people have material and they have no help. We will create jobs for people, have a housing brigade to go there and work. He said, David, we had a housing brigade, 12 people go and help and repair people's houses and build houses. We had the bathroom and toilet brigade in every constituency. 300 people employed. In the housing brigade, over 300 people employed. You create jobs. That is what you need. You had the prominent environmental wardens to take care of the environment, prominent, Jobs. Or in every constituency, we created jobs.
And that's additional to the people under the faith program and so on, who were engaged in various institutions in each constituency as well.
Yes, exactly. So what I'm saying, we are creating jobs. What you find? Say them. I was so shocked. One day notice, One day notice, and I could never forget that. The August Monday was a holiday, right?
Mm-hmm.
when the guys that in the bathroom and toilet brigade report to work the next day, they tell them that's the last day. Don't notice that, They say that's your last day at work, Joshua. And they send all of them home all over the island, They closed down and they said they would get volunteers and they will have a wash program and all this thing. Nothing happened. They men say all they had to do was for this poor blind lady was just to finish cover the bathroom and toilet. They could. That's what they went to do, But they tell them they had to go home. So they couldn't come back the next day and do it. For a blind lady, And all over the country, send them all of them. Housing brigade, same thing. One day notice, you're home because you are NNP. And NNP does give you work. So you have no work now because NDC in power. Well, NDC power, why not create jobs? Bring in the gangs. If you want to hire you, when people hire them, but let us see the continuation of the housing projects, the housing brigade, and the debushing program. the debushing program is a seasonal program. They give it some big name, but you're not seeing the gangs. And then Monday, I understand that they put out gangs. Lord, well, the few gangs I see in St. David, that could never control the amount of bush you ever listed at the road. I really hope they will put out more gangs because we have a lot of the visitors coming in to make the place look nice and clean and maintain the environment. And in addition, these people depend on the money to send the children to school. I have said on this program and on other programs, my experience is once the debushing program is on, nobody coming or very few people coming to me for help. So they do not want to beg government for help. They want work. I tell you, an average of 40 people used to come to me. When did the bushes start? I told they are going office. I find there's nobody in the office waiting for me. So I asked the secretary and the office manager what happened. They tell me the bushing program starts. And I started for the whole year, almost 10 people or so. There's a clear message. They want to work. They want to earn, to send their children to school. And because I came from a very poor family, I understand that. And so I don't know why is it that this government is not seeing the benefit 3 times a year, And then once we had 4 times, Easter, August, then we had Carnival time and Christmas time.
And
all
generally,
shops,
how many gangs you used to have out at any one period generally in St. David?
In St. David, we had about every year about 100 or something gangs walking.
That's not there now.
6 people per gang, 600 people. You know, at that time we could not get people to. No, well, I'll show you people. Let me rephrase it. We could not get men because they're men in construction and they're making more money. I remember a gang. That's not a joke, He had a gang that was working in current and they could not get enough men. They were paying 2 women in the gang men pay. I say, boy, to pay. I say, well, that wouldn't pass. Why you could pay them as men? They say, well, they're doing men work. They're doing work that men will do.
Gender equality, Minister. Gender equality.
Well, exactly. Well, but it's not that way. I think all of them should get the same pay. But I tell you, when they came to me, they said, these 2 ladies said they getting paid as a man. I say, you get paid as a man? So why you don't get the same pay as women? They say, well, men getting $10 more than women, so. And they have no men in the gang. So the supervisor decided to pay 2 of them, the 2 ladies, the salary of men, because they were occupied. The men, because of the construction sector, all of them was employed. So women were getting to go out and do the work. And that made a big difference to these people. And so I wish the government could understand the importance of this debushing program instead of looking down on it and giving it nice name, and people are not benefiting from it. So that is what I want to comment on at this stage.
No, I listened to the Honorable Telesford. Well, I wouldn't pronounce the name how I usually pronounce it, but Honorable Telesford in Parliament, and he was referring to the situation with the NIS, and that in 2022, the NIS brought in way less money than they gave out in benefits, and that for the first 4 months of 2023, a similar situation exists, that the NIS is not bringing in enough money. They've had to break deposits and so. Considering COVID 2020, well, at the beginning of 2022, you're still speaking about COVID, and the years previous, And then looking at the beginning of 2023, when COVID is not a major factor, your comments in relation to his statements about the national insurance scheme.
That's very simple. If less people employ, you get less money. Yeah, no magic about that. That would be a mathematician.
I didn't want to say it myself.
See, less people, you say no more these people, and you want to collect more money? All these people you say no must contribute to NIS, you know. But you send them home. So why you collect more money? You can't collect more money to send them home. You have to employ more people so the NS will get more money. Because under the NS Act, all employees, and including self-employed people, must contribute to the NIS. So that's a very simple matter.
Also, looking at the IMF at the end of the consultation, one of the statements that stood out for me that was made by the head of the mission was the one where they called on government in relation to the seed program to whatever savings to increase the amount of money that's given to the participants under that program. Your comments in relation to that particular aspect of the report.
Yes, well, no, that's a very important. 10 years ago, the IMF would not say that, The IMF was seen as an institution that does have no sympathy for people. That's how the IMF was seen, It's only about 10 years ago the IMF has started to change their view and say that government must invest more in the poor, And they must have programs like the seed program and other programs to help the less fortunate, Recently, so this program, that's a new policy directive of the IMF, that the government must take measures to assist the less fortunate people. And that's why they make that statement that we need to look at the programs that we have to assist the people. Because remember, there is no compulsory pension scheme in Grenada with the state pension, where once you retire, you get pension from the state. Like other countries, we don't have that. And therefore, the government must have programs to assist people who work all their lives but have no pension. Don't miss that point,
Mm-hmm.
They do not have any pension to get, So if you work, for example, you did not work with government to qualify, as your qualifying condition, or you work in the private sector and you did not qualify to get a pension, the state does not come in and give you automatically a pension, And that is the problem we have to address in Grenada, And therefore, you have a lot of people who serve the state and retire with no pension, and therefore the state must come forward and provide for them. And that's why the NMP had all these programs in place to assist these people, because we understand the plight of these people. So to take a position like, well, why government has to support them? Yes, because they work for the state. They play their part in the development of this country. And we cannot forget them. And therefore we must support them now. And that is the policy of the New National Party. And therefore the IMF make the statement, they must review the program, make it transparent and everything. Yes, do all that, but remember, there is no state pension or compulsory like other countries that we have. In CARICOM, I know Trinidad have a state pension. I remember in England, when I was studying in the UK, one of the millionaires there reached 65 years, and the article say, well, he's entitled to a state pension, They don't know if he will claim it because they make no distinction, You work for the state, you reach the age, I think, of 67 years, you're entitled to the pension. So they were saying they want to see, I can't remember the name of this millionaire, a popular song standing. They let us he will claim the state pension that he's entitled to. The point he was making is that there is no discrimination. The state pays the pension once you reach 65 years. We don't have that. As a poor, small island developing state, we haven't reached that stage yet, but the government must reach out to these people who have served us well.
Now, the government has also started looking at the issue of the salary scale and so on, what people are being paid. The possibility definitely is that it will negatively affect government in the aspect of how much money they have to pay out in salaries at the end of the month, because that's a projection that if they take on board the recommendations being made, they definitely will have to increase the salaries of several categories of workers. And we're talking here police force, nurses, across the board. And that will negatively affect some of what is going forward. Does the IMF report speak to this as well, as in some of the projections going forward?
Yes, they are very concerned. They are very concerned with the wage bill in the public service. Because, okay, very simple example. If the wage bill increases, then you have less money to spend on other areas like healthcare, social services, all the other areas, because a large percent. So if the percentage of the total revenue you collect, say 60% or 70%, goes towards wages, salaries, and pensions. So if you have 60% and you only have 40% to do everything else, So that is a major concern. And if you, as you promise, make everybody permanent and you reach 70%, then only 30% you have to do everything else,
So that's for the medicine in the hospital, that's for the upkeep of the roads, that's for the upkeep of government buildings, everything. That's all you have left.
That's all you are left. So you have to contain that. Watch, I remember to tell you, in 2013, and I am happy for the experience I got as a cabinet minister. When we went onto the structural adjustment program, and we had to drop the percentage of salary to total revenue, the IMF made a recommendation. But we had counter proposals. We said, no, we're not sending home a single worker. The IMF position is, well, you need to send them to reduce your wage bill, send home 1,000 people. We said, no, we could manage that differently and bring down the wage bill. You remember the famous 3 for 10? You say every 10 person going to hire 3?
Yes.
Yes. Listen, when the IMF give you a recommendation, you have to think about what you want to achieve. So what is the outcome? So you say, okay, that is what you want to reduce the wage bill to under 50%. We will implement these measures and bring it under 50%. And they said, okay, well, if you think you will do it, let's see. We brought it to under 45%. In fact, we brought it to 40%. The wage bill to total revenue that we are collecting because of prudent measures that we took. So the IMF is there and they will give you advice, but what it is they want to achieve. And you need to say to them, listen, if you need to keep the wage bill under 50%, so then we could do that and achieve it without sending nobody. So now with they kept the total amount under the Fiscal Responsibility Act to 9% of GDP. The wage bill should not exceed 9% of GDP. So if you grow the GDP, the 9% is a bigger figure. You remain 9%,
Mm-hmm.
But our focus is if we grow the gross domestic product, they will have more money. So instead of 9% or 2.5 billion, GDP 3 billion, so 9% is a higher figure. These things, you need to understand what it is that you want to achieve. And so, I am proud to see what the fiscal policies of the new National Party over the last 9 years has caused us to be where we are today, and has caused this government to come into office and pay the pension. That's what caused them to do it. When we came into office in 2013, there was no money in the treasury, you know.
But let me ask this question, because as you mentioned the pensions, they keep giving the impression that this was the first and only pension payment ever made.
Man, no, listen. In the Hamilton Armstrong case, when the court ruled that is not 83, not the 4th of April 83, is the effective date of the Pension Disqualification Act. But it was in February 1985, because that is the time it was gazetted. We had to pay $7 million in pension for 56 workers who came within that period. And that is why, when the court ruled, we said we will not appeal the court ruling, but we will pay the pension. And that is on record. That this government paid pension and committed to paying the pension. After the court ruling, we made it very clear. There was nothing preventing the government from appealing. But we said we will not appeal the decision, but instead we will pay the pension, because we paid it before and we will continue to pay it. And so, the London matter, I think, is very clear, and the report did give all the credit to the previous government, because I want to highlight it again, you know. I want to read it one more time, Sheldon, as I close.
Mm-hmm.
The authorities' policy response, facilitated by the build-up of fiscal buffers over the past decade. And we can't forget that. Never forget that. The past decade, you know.
Yes, indeed. And I know you have to run off, because I know you have another activity you
well,
must
you
go to.
Much longer than I thought. You tell me half an hour, and almost an hour now, you know.
Yes, well, you know, that's talking points for you, huh? When did it? Because you know, it's not no easy questions here. We're discussing things and we're going in depth. No,
Yes,
one quick one before you run, because I know you must run. The government has announced that they're removing the fees for the TAMCC and NULO, and so they're removing the tuition fees and so. But in looking at the budget document, I'm not seeing that reflected.
No, well, they could be supplemental. They could go to Parliament.
Mm-hmm. So we have to look out for a supplemental coming to cover that.
Yes. But let me make the point before I go, because really I don't want to go, because you're asking some very important questions, and I could stay with you for the whole hour. But let me tell you, they must never give the impression that we did not give money to TAMCC. Look in the budget in 2022 for transfers. You see when we have transfers?
Mm-hmm.
And see the $15 million that we gave to TAMCC for the operation.
Mm.
So look at that transfer. I'm saying transfer because people might know where to look for it. And they will say, this is the former minister line. Because they will look at the TAMCC. We have a vote called transfers. That's where we give money to the statutory bodies, and TAMCC is the biggest beneficiary of these transfers because they have said to us that the fees they're charging cannot run the college. They need to increase fees. So they came to government we say, no. We're not increasing no fees and poor people children going to college. We will give you the subvention. And so every year we budget a subvention for the college. Just like we give subvention to other statutory bodies, the Food and Nutrition Council, other bodies. You see the figure there called transfers. And therefore, we must never create the impression that the government in the past it never gave money to TAMCC. So now we come and we're going to cover all the costs. You will see what will happen. When they say they covered all the costs, you will hear about fees, but different things, and they will say, well, it does not cover these fees. We're only talking about tuition. Well, if you're talking about tuition, say that.
Mm-hmm.
You see what happened this year in registration?
The secondary school still asking for the money.
Yeah. Well, of course. Yes. So, while it is a good thing, if you can provide free education at the tertiary level, that's a good thing. Let the poor people, children, go there and benefit. But what we had was an economic means test. In other words, we have lawyers, doctors, economists, all the kind of good children going in college and you pay for them. And they have money to pay for the children. So our policy was, in every constituency, and you identify poor people, children who cannot pay, we will pay. You know when people incentivate children incentivate pay for? Mm-hmm. And to me, that is a better policy. Or you paying for all these rich people who could afford to pay?
And Minister, one of the things that has come out from both TAMCC and NULO is that even though a parent might be able to pay the tuition, the child still ends up home because they can't pay the transportation, which is where the government, the NNP government, was providing funding to TAMCC and so on to provide money for transportation, especially for some of the children living out in the outer parishes, to provide that support for them to be able to come down to town to come to school.
Exactly. And I could give you my experience with that, Listen, I was a part-time lecturer at National College in economics. And that year, so many students applied to the economics. So there was an excess. So the dean asked me if I could come in and teach the course, for 1 hour, 3 times a week. And I said yes. When I arrived there, my class was 70 students, Because when they divided the class with the other 2 economics students, they said they're not taking more than 40. So each of them had 40. Well, it's 35 they should have, but each of them said they would take 40. And they had 70 left over, And I had to teach the class of 70, After the 4th semester, I noticed the class went up was 62. So I asked what happened. They said the students from St. Patrick's and St. Mark's told them they cannot afford to pay transportation to come down to school every day. So when you start our free teacher, who will pay the transportation, and then they have to get food, they have to get meals, they have to get other things. And that is why the new national party say we will pay for the needy students and we'll pay the transportation to ensure that they stay in school. So just talking about, well, you pay the tuition. Like poor people who want to see the children get a better education.
Because even if government pays the tuition, so you may have somebody that the tuition is paid for, but they just can't make it down from St. Patrick on a daily basis,
exactly.
Or St. Andrew on a daily basis, or St. David, or St. Mark, or St. John on a daily basis to come down to the campus in Tantine.
That's right. And that is why we say we're going to do an economic needs test and support the students. That was the right policy to help students with the books, to help students with the transportation costs. You know, that is where it must focus. They said a broad policy. Well, everybody gets it free. So we give everybody. And in that situation, the vulnerable people drop out because they still cannot make it to go to school. So when we're thinking about policy, let's think about the all sectors in the society and how we could help these people to grow and develop. So, yes, we need to provide opportunities for people, but we have to look at the real cause. We have people going to St. George's University, they have to pay transportation or rent from St. Patrick's to go down there, and there is no late transportation. After a certain hour, they can't go back at their home, so they must rent apartment. That's our next burden. Let's look at the holistic approach. We need a holistic approach to solving this problem. And therefore, I will say, while we welcome you pay in the tuition, but take a broad picture. Maybe you're not aware of it. So, but you see, if you're not aware, have a committee, a broad-based committee. And what is so difficult with consulting with them? With past ministers, or if you don't want to talk to past ministers, talk to the permanent secretaries or other people who are involved, so you can get some ideas.
Well, let me ask this final question, because 9:28, you actually give me the hour. So you give me the hour I initially asked for anyway. But let me ask this final question from you. When you're ending this question, you could just put on your phone and walk out. As the former MP for St. David, former Minister of Foreign Affairs, we're hearing all kind of thing happening with England, Canada, etc. right now. Former Minister with Economic Development, I believe it was, and so on.
Yeah,
have you been consulted at any point in time by the present administration in relation to anything at all? Have you been consulted? As the MP / Prime Minister reached out to you, either when Minister of Finance or now Minister of Works? Have any of them generally reached out to you for any advice or so? You don't have to say necessarily who, but has it happened?
No, it has not happened, and I don't expect it to happen. Because they think they hire a number of advisors called transformational lead and other people, and that's all right. If you don't need my input, that's fine. You go ahead, have your own advisors, come up with your policy decisions, and we will do the analysis. The people will judge you by the decisions you make. So I have not been consulted, and I'm not surprised at all that I have not been consulted on these matters, because they have the experts that they can rely on. And I just wish Grenada all the best, because I want to see Grenada develop and strive.
All right. Thank you so very much, sir. I hope to see the fire truck in the fire station at your bill in St. David's very soon.
Yeah,
So
I don't even expect to get an invitation to the opening.
well, you know what's going on there already. So they built a whole fire thing there for them, a nice little area for the fire. We're waiting for the fire truck. It was ordered already. It was supposed to be here by now. So we're waiting to hear what happened with the fire truck. And when it comes and they put it inside there and they cut in ribbon, we hope that they invite you. All right, sir. Thank you very much.
All right.
Honorable, I still call you Honorable, Oliver Joseph. Thank you so very much, sir.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Folks, we have been speaking there with, as again, the Honorable Oliver Joseph, the former MP for St. David, former Minister of Foreign Affairs. You feel you could be hearing all this kind of talk about going on in England, you're getting visa and thing. I mean, yeah, all other countries are to get, but we are part of the realm. So we have a case that should be made to the UK government that, hey, That is for the rest of them. Yeah, Dominica, that is a republic. You could do that to them. You could do that to this one. You could do that to that one. But we, Grenada, we are part of the realm. And therefore, we ought not to be treated in the same way. At least while we are still part of the realm. Yeah? So you can't treat us like you're treating the rest of them. You can't treat us like you treat the rest of countries. Nice? Yeah. So at least as a former Minister of Foreign Affairs, he may have been able to offer some advice to the present administration. But they ain't looking for advice. They ain't looking for solutions. All they're looking for is photo opportunities. So they have not gone to the source where they can get information. Yeah? So we want to thank again the former Minister of Foreign Affairs, former Member of Parliament for St. David, for his input tonight, especially in the area. And he's a lecturer, so I like to speak to him on economic matters, because when he's done, all of us gain a better understanding of the issues at hand. We are going to open the phone lines, 440-7377. That's 440-7377. You can give us a call. And those of you outside of Grenada, you can call us on 347-329-3101.
The youth from the ghetto, can't afford to go. No, to a chronic Montano.
And again, when it comes to the issue of crime and violence and so on, we've seen what happened in St. Vincent last night. Well, you know, old people say, when your neighbor house on fire, what you're supposed to do? Wet your own. Yeah? You see your neighbor. Last night, for those of you that may not know, 5 people were murdered in St. Vincent last night in gun violence, not only around the capital city, but in various parts of the main island. They had shootings taking place and gunshots firing all over. And that was last night. I ain't hear nothing for tonight so far. I'm doing the program. I ain't get no messages. I hope it's nice and calm. Yeah? Because I have Vinci blood in me too. So I hope everything day nice and calm tonight. But when your neighbor house is on fire, wet your own. Yeah? So we see what has taken place there. And their prime minister, unlike the one we have here, their prime minister, all the way in Monaco, on the other side of the earth. And when he arrived, when he come off the plane, the first thing the man do as he come off the plane, he send a message to the people of St. Vincent in relation to the issue. Yeah, whether you agree or don't agree with the message, he made sure that he spoke to the people of St. Vincent in relation to the issue at hand. This is what is taking place. This is what we're going to do in relation to it. Yeah? Meanwhile here, we just have to come and call every night on the Prime Minister to come out and make an address and to come and speak to the people. And then when he come and speak to the people, he basically says nothing to the people of Grenada. Yeah? I had some more questions for Mr. Oliver Joseph, you know, but another night, yeah? 440-7377. 347-329-3101. We're into the final half hour of Talking Points for this week.
He's more stress and worry. Plenty worry.
And I hope you all got a chance to look at Simon Says this evening.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, Jenny Simon, she explained everything that took place with the Queen. She had to kind of grab piece because I was at a funeral a little earlier, and therefore I didn't get a chance to really view it in the way that I wanted to view it. I think some people went on and they see Queen Show and they think, oh no, that's the same thing from last week, but no, it was different. So for those of you that may not yet have viewed or be subscribed to her page, look on YouTube for Simon Says. You go see Miss Jenny Simon smiling there, nice. Right, nice. Subscribe. Yeah, subscribe, click the bell icon and so that you could view her program. Yeah, because she has a wonderful program and she gave deep insight into what happened with the 2023 Queen Show. So it's important that you do that. Also, yeah, right after her, you had the classroom with Prince Royalty James. Yeah. So you could look online, you look for the classroom, just click the class, type the classroom Grenada, and it's going to bring you to the right one, the classroom. And yeah, subscribe, click the bell icon so you could get the information and so. And I realize Facebook has been giving some problems over the past couple of weeks and so. So that's why I keep encouraging you all to join us on YouTube. And right now, I want to make sure that I see 120 likes on YouTube. I'll find my chest getting high, as Jamaicans would say. Yes, 120 likes at least on both YouTube and on Facebook in the next few minutes. We have a call online. Good night.
Hey, good night, Sheldon. I heard you mention in Vinci that you had other shootings apart from the 5 people that dead. That's not true, eh?
No, I was
that
saying,
was false.
No, we're saying that there were shootings
rumors.
in multiple villages taking. When I'm saying shootings, not shooting of people, but multiple shootings taking place, as in guns going off in different communities.
That wasn't the commissioner of police confirmed. That was false information. Only the one in Kingston where the 5 people were killed.
Okay. Because I was looking at some of the news programs. I was looking at some.
So I know.
No, what I'm saying, I was looking at some of the news program out of St. Vincent, and that's what they were saying on those news programs. So that's why I got that impression.
Yeah. That's rumors. That's not true. That was false.
Okay. So it's only the one where the 5 individuals were killed in?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm listening to you probably like for 4 months now, the first time I'm calling you.
Thank you so very much, my brother.
All right.
Okay. Wonderful. Thanks.
All right.
So we have a Vincentian himself who is confirming for us that while the shootings did take place, they took place in one localized area, and the information, because I got that off of various news sites out of St. Vincent, was saying multiple shootings in different areas. But again, that was early, so we have a call online. Good night.
Good night, Brother Sheldon.
Hi, good night. How are you?
Good night to all the listeners. I'm good.
I find that song as Doc. Doc, how are you?
I am fine. I don't think you want to know, but I'll answer still because you have given me up.
I could never give you up.
I love that.
I'll give up myself before I give you up. Well, go right ahead, Doc.
Yeah, just a couple of comments,
Yeah.
I want to start on the bushing because I saw some more people than usual cleaning up the bush by the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
I am very pleased to see that because as a regular commuter on the road, I'm well aware of the difficulties to navigate the roads, even the main roads nowadays, not knowing what is under the bush, whether it's a hole, whether it's a drain, and how you go on, and how you give way to other traffic and so on, and how you place yourself. And I think what is happening has reinforced the wisdom of the NNP in having 3 to 4 periods of intensive debushing on the roadside and overhangings and all of these things. And this was ridiculed by NDC and the activists. And the same people I heard telling workers in the past, whether they were NNP or not, that is all NNP has to offer you, and NDC will offer you so much more. But the same people who were telling people that before is the same people I see doing the debushing. So I am wondering, and following on the heels of the conversation with Brother Oliver Joseph, where you all mentioned the jobless growth, I am wondering where the new jobs have come from 23rd of June, 2022 to now. And in our little constituency in St. Mark, at a period like that where people are looking to prepare for the children to go back to school, some may prepare for Carnival, but it's a festivity of the nation. But more importantly, people preparing for school. And that was a very, very important program for those people. So, and we used to have 40 gangs, multiply 40 by 6, over 200 people every fortnight going in to work, and over 200 people being paid fortnightly on time. And so these people could have, if they wanted to, purchase items for their children to go back to school. But also, it generated economic activities in the smaller villages and so that the smaller businesses could survive, and even the bigger ones too. Because these are the people who spend the money and contribute significantly to the economy. So what is, some of these things that are commonly being coined as handouts really are seriously handouts. Because if you educate people, if you educate a nation, then that's what the nation needs to fly. And, in addition to what was said about the school fees, well, I also heard that the school fees have been removed. But we must not remember the other recurrent expenses to send children to school, especially those who live some distance from home. That their homes are some distance from the institution of learning. So on the western side, we're talking about persons going to New Low. We're talking about persons going to TAMCC, persons going to SGU. And NP government assisted persons with tuition, those who were deemed unable to afford it. Also, in addition to that, they were given assistance to pay the bus fees and so that they can get to the institution of learning. And from St. Mark's point of view, every year or every semester, we had 20 to 30 persons who were given on a monthly basis some financial assistance to attend school and to educate themselves. So some people mix up hand up for hand out. These were not handouts. These were very, very pertinent and relevant means of assisting people to improve the quality of their life. I also just want to mention two things that came up in Parliament, in our recent Parliament, and I'll be quick on it. One that I find very interesting every time it comes up is the area of questions where persons can pose questions prior to the sitting for a particular person based on that person's responsibility, a particular minister based on his or her responsibility. And our leader of the opposition, Dr. Keith Claudius Mitchell, would have asked several questions repeatedly. And when I listened to the infantile responses, it always reminds me of the great disrespect and disregard these people have for the nation of Grenada. You want to tell me as a minister for finance that you do not have access, that you cannot tell what monies were expended for persons to travel? There's a simple, straightforward way to get it done. And if you are the minister, then you are accountable, you are responsible for knowing these things, because at the end of the budget year, when we have the budget presentation, you have to tell the nation what was expended in what areas, and you have to base what your forecast for the next year on what happened the year before. So when you come in a parliament sitting and you say you don't know, you do not have access to that information. So if you get the information, then you will be able to answer the question. I think it's an insult to the nation, because the opposition does not represent themselves. The opposition represents the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. And there are always those kinds of answers. I don't have it, I don't know if I get it, or I am not responsible, and so on, and we will hear it repeatedly. Grenadians must listen to those sittings and realize that there is no accountability from the government side on a lot of issues. If you say sometimes CDB funds, then you must have a list of the travels that CDB has funded or XYZ institution has funded, and what you have funded. But in terms of the monies coming from the consolidated funds, there is a clear pathway to know how much was expended. Then the other issue,
Dr. Modest, there's simply Smart Stream. All they have to go is onto the Smart Stream system, the system that operates the finances on behalf of the government of Grenada. All that information is contained in there.
Exactly.
So I don't understand the big hullabaloo about we can't find and we don't have. It could take under half an hour to put all that information together. Under half an hour.
Sheldon, I mentioned a clear pathway because you have a permanent secretary.
Yes.
Who could tell you. You also have, every ministry has a finance officer who is the accounting person, who is the person who deals with the finances that are required for travel. And there is a vote. And the finance officer doesn't step outside of that vote unless given specific authority to do it. So I speak of the whole system, and there are clear forward means. But also, something very interesting came up in the one bill that was brought to Parliament, and that was for the increase of the pensionable age from 60 to 65 over a 5-year period. And on our side, we supported it. You see, every year, other countries do it all the time because they have found it necessary, and it was deemed necessary also in the case of Grenada. So we have no problem with that. But my concern is the preparation of the people. And I noticed NIS has been doing some consultations, as I don't have reports on them in terms of the level of information that is brought to the people. But we are clear that there must be some kind of psychological support for persons. Even if you hadn't changed the age, they need it. And so the government of the day has to be cognizant of that. But also, I heard something saying, well, more people are going to get jobs. And I always remember Brother Oliver's, is how is it, the term, jobless growth. Jobs have not been created. You know, they talk about construction as though the boom in construction started with them. No, it didn't. And the records would show that. But if you increase the age, we have to also remember that the younger person who has been waiting for that seat to be vacated so that they could move up has to wait an appropriate time, whether it's 1 year or 5 years, before acceding or before that possibility could become a reality. And it also means that the younger person who would have graduated has to wait until that older person has retired. So there's nothing wrong with the idea, but it's just that these psychological, these emotional things have to be taken into consideration even as you seek to implement. And one never hears about these things, but the backlash could be there. We already have seen that persons, that there are some, mental problems going on that need to be addressed, and it could increase. And so therefore we have to preempt and prepare the nation for those kinds of eventualities. So I hope that will be looked at, and we do not have a long time from the 1st of January 2024. That is when it would be effective. And I also recall that in your conversation with Brother Oliver Joseph, there are some people, because of the way they are being treated on their jobs, and off their jobs, they may be seriously looking at retirement. And therefore, we might find that the number of persons who are retiring might be much more than predicted. And finally, in terms of retirement and pensions and so on, I went to 2 graduations recently, and I heard it being said, they were speaking about persons who are due to retire or who have retired, and they said well, now they would get their pensions. And I am glad Brother Oliver explained that the NNP government in office never stopped pensions and never stopped gratuity. So thank you. That is my contribution, and I hope we keep reinforcing that.
One more before you leave. Well, actually, two before you leave. You were in Parliament 2 days ago. Dr. Mitchell was on the floor making certain statements in relation to returning the 150 to the poor and the vulnerable people who really need it. And if you listen very carefully over the mic, you can hear people on the other side getting on over a statement like that, laughing basically. You have members on the other side laughing when he's speaking about something as important as that 150 and returning it to people who really, really need it. So
one did not have to listen very carefully. It was very blatant. It was open, the kind of comments. And I had hoped to hear something from the speaker on this matter because he is the judge in Parliament, and he's the one who has to set the tone of respect as is required in the highest institution of our country. But it just shows that they have no regard for the indigent, for the poor, and that they are just pawns in a game to be courted and lied to and promised to when it's convenient, before elections, and to be discarded forthwith, right after elections. And that is what we see being played out all the time. It's nothing new. And so they're just demonstrating their disregard, their disdain for the poor people of this country. Because the Prime Minister of the day knows very well that he promised them $650. Instead of that, you reduced it by 150 at least, and in some instances it was completely removed without even an investigation as to why that individual had been getting the welfare support or seed support as necessary. And it turned out that some of the people from whom this support was withdrawn were some of the most needy in our country. So it just shows you the blatant disrespect and disregard that they have for the poor. And it is unfortunate, extremely, extremely unfortunate.
And secondly, it struck me very, very surprising when the response of the question as to the removal of the Labour Commissioner, that the answer to the question was they have no response as to why that person was removed from the position as Labour Commissioner in all your years in Parliament. Have you, and you've been in Parliament for quite a while now, have you ever encountered this sort of thing? Even in your last round in opposition, was this the sort of thing that was taking place in the Parliament?
Well, Parliament is the place where you expect the highest level of accountability. That is the place where the nation is supposed to be given answers. And remember, I think I said it before, these questions are not just our individual questions. These are questions that the people, that the citizens of Grenada are asking, but also they need to know. And therefore, for a minister to tell us that he doesn't know why, I am well aware, and you are aware, that the Public Service Commission is supposed to play a major role. And while the Public Service Commission should not necessarily be influenced by the ministers, but they have to give, they are responsible also to give answers for their own actions because they have to be accountable. And therefore, if you're saying you have no jurisdiction over them and they cannot tell you, well, we're in serious trouble. We are in serious trouble. I heard the same response before, that you have to go to the PSC and the PSC doesn't have to answer. And I heard, what you alluding to, very similar response, Mm-hmm. But it's interesting that what the minister said before, kind of spoke well of the individual on whom the questions was based in terms of the person's experience and their competencies. So nothing was said that would give persons the idea, well, this person wasn't qualified. So it begs the question, then what happened? Mm-hmm. What happened? Up to now, we still do not know.
Indeed,
so,
Dr. Modest.
That is the trend.
Yes,
just give an answer.
Dangerous trend.
It is supposed to dispel with the question of the day.
Dr. Modest, I'd like to thank you so very much for your input and giving us a call. You're always one of our faithful listeners and callers to each night's program, and we'd like to thank you so very much for that.
Well, good night to you, Sheldon. Good night to Grenada, Carriacou City Market.
And good night to the people of St. Mark.
Blessed night, and I know there are many listening overseas. Good night to our brothers and sisters who are listening overseas as well.
All right. Thank you so very much. All right, folks, we have been speaking there to the Honorable Clarice Modest, the Member of Parliament for St. Mark, giving her insight in relation to several issues there. And, of course, always timely in her interventions in relation to these issues, be it the debushing and the importance of the debushing in communities and so on, not just the providing employment, but the cleaning of the communities, the cleaning of the drains. And so you're seeing some areas flooding that don't usually flood. And the reason they don't usually flood is because they are usually cleaned. So the drain is cleaned and you have the overhanging and so on cut in that particular area so that you don't have the stoppages taking place to flood that area. So we are thankful for her for input on tonight's program. She will be our final caller for tonight. It has been a wonderful program. It has been wonderful interacting with you all this week as usual on Talking Points. And of course, we always have things holding back, I believe tomorrow morning we will be having Mosquito Man. I think he's on tomorrow morning from 9. Lenroy, message me. If you are, yes, I think he might be busy now, but I believe he's on in the morning for 9. You also will have tomorrow, God's willing, you'll be having the extension program on Real 91.9, 91.5 with Master Carl, and so we'll be on. I'm not sure if Mr. Francis Pierre will be joining them in the morning, but you'll be having that program on in the morning. Then on Sunday, remember, 91.9, 91.5 from 1 p.m. You can also look for them online, Real FM online. You can look for them. There will be the, what's the Sunday program called again? Friday's the extension, and Sunday, I'm trying to remember the name of the Sunday program, but it will be on this Sunday. That's with KB and Carl and so on. It will be on Sunday. Folks, that's all the time we have for tonight. It's been wonderful being here with you. In everything you say and everything you do, we want you to remain safe and secure. We want to be speaking to and with you, and definitely not about you. Remember, be your neighbor's keeper, and when your neighbor house on fire, still remember, wet your own. We're looking forward to see. I wonder if government put out, let me check quick before I go, because government does try to put out things, they know when the program finishing, and so they does wait until then and try and put out things. So let me see quick before I go. Nah, they ain't put out nothing there yet, boy. But we look to see what they put out tomorrow. Folks, that's it from Talking Points. We're going out with this one, man, and this one is dedicated specifically to the members of the National Democratic Congress in Parliament.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Don't stop the progress. Don't stop the progress. Don't we have problems, and there's nobody to solve them. The opposition making gross, so the big boys could play in the house. We can't get lights, neither water. Look at the situation with Wassa. They're only making confusion, building calls for horses to run. Why is the speaker speaking?
In Parliament, the Kingston.
Murray with Tobago flag flying.
In Parliament, the Kingston.
Sean Pandey always arguing.
In Parliament, the Kingston.
They want to build course for horse racing.
In Parliament, the Kingston.
The Kingston all the time. Blowing everybody mind. The Kingston all the time. Blowing everybody mind. Food stuff of a shortage daily. Business places burning in the city. Before they watch these things seriously, the whole meeting is a comedy. Ridicule and the fatty giving, and all of the members laughing. Whilst they having a good time, we catching we royal behind. Why is the speaker speaking?
In Parliament, the Kingston.
Smoking, making sweet type for selling.
In Parliament, the Kingston.
So much of dirty water we drinking.
In Parliament, the Kingston.
We have a telephone and it's a walking.
In Parliament, the Kingston.
The preparing for election coming.
In Parliament, the Kingston.
So he put a cabinet in the kitchen.
In Parliament, the Kingston.
Every day, sicky playing.
In Parliament, the Kingston.
Nothing in the country walking.
In Parliament, the Kingston.
Mr. Speaker, sir,
In Parliament,
I really admire the behavior of the opposition. Sir,